Uh, Is this a, Shelley? Is this a revised agenda inside here? Okay, we can just go off of that. All right, let's begin with the calling the meeting to order. Shoot, I've got that. Excuse me. Last month.
Yeah.
Okay, here. Got the agenda here. But
We just have to find it.
okay. All right, let's open with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Why don't we just spend about 20 seconds in silence and pray that this meeting is fruitful and all right, amen. And then let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
All right, thank you. Do we have anyone here from the public that'd like to make comments? I guess we don't. All right. Do we have any adjustments for the month?
Nothing
Okay.
from me.
All right.
Page one does have your adjustments that somebody requested for adjustments from last month.
Okay. Yeah, that was just a learning.
Just two small ones.
The consent agenda. Does anyone on the board want to pull anything and discuss on the consent agenda?
I'd like to hear a little more from the SJRA. From the Bear Branch Repairs and low flow vault update.
The only thing I think I want to pull off is the SJRA report. Let me click on the. I think I had a question on the general manager's report. Maybe with the trustees. I'm trying to find it. The page is the trustee report versus the general manager's report. I didn't sticky tab my trustees report for me.
Trustees on 42.
Okay, I do not have anything on the trustee. I just have,
DMs on 39.
okay, I have a question on the general manager and the SJRA. That's it.
All right, let's go ahead and pull those and go straight to them. San Jacinto report.
So I'll take the easy one first, update on infrastructure funding. There's nothing with that one today. No update there. We'll start with the wastewater strategic plan update, meeting minutes from meeting that took place on July 27th. Your packet on page 35. Just real briefly, high level overview of that meeting was starting discussions with our consultant. How we're going to develop the life cycle costs, what assumptions are going into these costs, associated with the various shortlisted alternatives from the stakeholder group. We're looking at what metrics we want to present and be able to compare and contrast them in a certain manner to where Are we looking at bond financing options and debt service over a certain period of time? Is that a metric we present? Also looking at maybe percent or impact to rates over a certain period of time. So those could be two different metrics that we could bring to the table to help compare and contrast these various alternatives. Two other things too, that, and George, I want to let you know, is our next stakeholder meeting was scheduled for November 8th. Come to our attention that it's election day. So we are looking at moving that up 1 week. You'll hear from summer, it will still be early in the through going through some of the other meetings this week. Have had stakeholders reach out to us requesting kind of interim stakeholder meeting. To where the previous one was in July and the next one in November, that's a pretty long gap of not meeting at all. So the request was to set something up. We're looking at middle end of September. And we're looking for any recommendations on certain agenda items that you would like more information, or if you, the stakeholder group, would like more information on. We have a few things that we do plan to present, a little deeper dive into technology, conventional versus MDR, and working bioreactor, and just kind of trying to outline some of the benefits, pros and cons of those. Then also, we won't have the actual cost estimate on all the alternatives, but we would have an approach where, all right, here's some of our assumptions. We're going to assume 4% inflation across the board. We're going to come to you with these different metrics on the cost of the alternatives. You know, what is the stakeholder's opinion on that approach? So when we get to the November meeting, it's not a big surprise, and we would have to go back and report a lot of things. So just, you know, any input you would have, feel free to reach out to us. We'll plan on hearing more regarding those stakeholders.
So my question there's a comment that a few MUD members suggested that we plan for a 15 MGD plant instead of 10.2 MGD plant. What was the reasoning behind that? You don't just kind of like build bigger plants to build bigger plants.
So where that discussion stemmed from is the 10.2 is the current assumption on plant capacity if we were to rebuild plant 1 with a new plant. That is based off of the 6th and final accounting numbers, where we have projections through 2027 on how those would increase. But beyond 2027, it's essentially a flat line at this point, where we don't have adequate information at this point to really have a projection. So that discussion was, well, more than likely there will be additional growth or redevelopment that causes additional need for additional capacity beyond that 2027 date, the numbers we currently have. So what that number is, you know, is it 12, is it 15? That's still to be determined, and definitely something we would be evaluating further in a phase 2 assessment when we get to that.
Your plant firm capacity right now is, what was it?
I think it's 16, isn't it? You're
Combined.
You have it in here.
Which,
Your plant 1, you said that was the one that they wanted to increase? That
we're
you,
just talking about it in general, if you go a consolidated route.
you said rebuild plant 1 with projections through 2027. So you were projecting 2027 to have to be able to handle 10.2 MGD at plant 1? Or was that consolidated 10.2? And you probably know the answer, what the different capacity of plant 1?
The 10.2 is a consolidated.
10.2 is consolidated,
based
plant
on-
1 and plant 2. Okay,
Correct.
okay,
That's really no
consolidated.
contingency added on that or no room for additional growth.
Is that right? I thought it was 10.2 or 10 million for each plant. Today, they're 16, right?
Yeah, very important.
Yeah.
So
So that's a real positive thing if you can survive with consolidated plant of 10 million gallons. That is a real positive statement.
correct. I would say, like. I
I'm
alluded
not
to in
sure
his
I'm not
comments,
sure that's what you really mean.
Well, it's what additional growth you may see, because this is a 50-year planning horizon.
Sure, sure.
So my assumption is it's going to be higher than 10.2 is consolidated plan. Just what that number is, we don't know. And then what additional contingency you want to put on top of that. Those are all.
You
discussed.
sent me an email a month ago, and I thought you said 10 for each plant in a consolidated plan. So that's
If I
really
did-
that's really a significant reduction. That's good.
Yes, this is 10.2 would be.
Yeah, that's really good.
So your plants are now permitted for 7.8 and 6.
Right.
Plant 1 and plant 2, so that's what, 13.8. So you go down to 10.2. I guess I'd have to see all the numbers. And I completely get that you want to do projections. Is it population projections? Are you looking at land use projections? That type of thing. So maybe what would be good is if we can get a chart of you probably already have this developed, just like a chart of all the options that you're doing, the reasons why, maybe like if you have cost now, what it's planning to serve, like just I guess just think about it. Because I'll look at these numbers and I'll look at the plans and I'm like, okay, they're going down. I don't understand why they're going down. So I think that might be helpful. Maybe you have that.
I don't think I have a chart, but
Maybe I can draw you a chart.
I understand what Dan is saying.
No, I understand what Dan is saying too, but the numbers aren't making sense in my head, so I need to see numbers or something.
And that's fair. And
Some kind of
we
visual.
would be able to develop some sort of summary table chart thing to meet.
Yeah, like probably where we stand now, like where we're at now.
That's fair.
Okay.
All right, I'm just going through a lot of projections with a lot of different cities right now, and I see a decrease, I get concerned. I see an increase, I get concerned.
Yeah, those projections I think referred to from that last interim accounting were just out to 2027, what the best guess was at the time for undeveloped tracks. And I don't think that takes into account any redevelopment that would result in higher density. So that's, I think, part of your squeeze factor is, okay, if you go down to that lower projection in 2027, you're not leaving a lot of room for potential growth that would possibly add to your tax base.
Yeah, I just want to find out how it's developed, just because yeah, those could be the projections, but you generally look at projections every 5 years. I don't know when.
So that 6 and final was what, about 5 or 6 years ago?
2007.
Yeah.
And then you try to do it like a 20, 30, go to 40, 50 year
Yeah,
being
strategic planning.
very, yeah. So probably if you want me to draw you a little outline, I'll draw you an outline.
Do you have something in your head that you're looking for that?
That was all my questions on that. I think, I think that's a bit. With it for the report.
Did you have any more?
So in one of the previous slides you presented, you had a range of cost across the different options. And the variation was 15% high, low, from my memory down. Can you take that range, the cost and lay it out at a rough plan on a yearly basis, so we don't know how much capital is required each year? And then, convert that to, look at your run rate of depreciation and amortization, and then project how many cents per year cost we would experience by this capital investment.
And that's really what we're working towards right now for that November meeting. And the consultant would basically be presenting us for all the different shortlisted alternatives, is a 50-year outlay year by year
Right.
of when capital would be needed.
needed.
And that's something that we can work on. We've had some conversations recently with the financial advisors on helping us pull this together to be able to present it in a consistent manner. The other thing I forgot to mention too is, we also have hundreds of millions of dollars on the water side.
Right.
So we want to be transparent and paint the big picture for y'all too. Not just, all right, here's the wastewater side, we'll address the water separately. There is a bigger picture that y'all are going to be looking at here for the Woodlands infrastructure.
It's good to see millions of dollars, but in essence, it's only relevant next to the amortization depreciation that you're at rate right now. And so I kind of think in, nickels and dimes per thousand rate.
So
And I'd like to see something like that so we can know what to expect in terms of tax increase.
kind of feeding off of this, is there any opportunity at any point, probably with the trustees is what you'll tell me, is that you look at it and you're like, we can't afford all this. Like, we can't do that.
That's why you do it that way.
And then you're prioritizing. There's going to be an opportunity for that at some point, right? Like, you're going to have to say,
The ultimate goal is sometime, call it January, we're gonna have all the analysis completed on these alternatives, presenting it to stakeholders, presenting it to the MUDs, trustees, et cetera. We're going to need a consensus on how we want to move forward, where, all right, nope, based on this, we're sticking with a renewal and replacement option of conventional treatment. Here's what it's gonna be, and we develop a 10-year project plan on that. Or consolidation looks advantageous, let's enter into a more of a phase 2 evaluation to explore this further. So the plan is sometime January, we're gonna be looking for that. Yes. And the plan between now and then is to provide you with all the necessary cost, data, et cetera, to make a,
Decision. Yeah. All right. Any more questions for SJRA? Okay, we also pulled the general manager's report. Is that what you were looking for?
George, did you want the Fair Ranch ones too?
Yeah, I was interested in, you want to go ahead?
I just wanted to talk about this nice letter we have included in the city of Conroe, the letter of victory.
I think that's under item.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
20. Yes.
Okay, good.
I can get a quick update on Bear Branch.
Okay, go ahead.
The first one is Bear Branch Dam repairs. So our contractor, Keene Construction, has been on site working since early June. They have completed all the crack sealing and joint sealing and filling the voids that was originally identified. A couple things to note on that, however, is during that process, we did encounter some quantity overruns on the void, filling the voids and the joint sealing. The void, it was pretty minor overruns. Those were hard to try to quantify during the engineering phase. So there was a little additional grout needed to fill those. On the joint sealing side, that was within the plunge pool area that's just downstream of the spillway, where when we were doing the initial evaluations, we were not able to get that fully dewatered. And there's also sand and sediment that was covering up those joints. So during our construction and the dewatering methods the contractor put in place, we were able to get in there, clear that sediment, identify those joints, and seal them properly. So those were the additional overruns on that. During a substantial completion inspection, our engineer observed a couple other areas where there was voids. This just occurred like in the past week. So these are more in the service spillway area, and it appeared there was some potentially old wooden stakes that were there for formwork during the original construction that rotted away, left a little opening, and it turned into a void. We don't have the full extent of those determined on what the additional quantity would be. We have a best estimate from the contractor, and we have proceeded to authorize them to move forward with those repairs at this time while they're still on site. It's really the responsible dam ownership. So, but just to summarize that into what are the cost impacts. Original contract was for $107,000. SRA's budget that we pulled together for the project was $150,000. And we estimate at this point in time, the total project cost to be about $60,000 above the original contract amount. So total cost about $165,000. We do plan to come back at the next meeting and give a final update on those costs and the repairs that they would be doing on those additional voids. I did want to point out that in our projected or the upcoming budget, we projected $101,000 underrun that would be carried forward to the next fiscal year. So the additional cost on this project will impact that number. So that is an update on the minor repair. Any questions on that one? And real quickly, the low flow vault update. So there is a low flow vault that sits on top of the dam that we've had numerous issues with vandalism, breaking lock off of. This is a vault that's 15, 20 feet deep. So the concern came up in previous mud meetings on the safety of that. There's been discussions with 160 about how quickly we could get out there and retrofit that vault lid with basically a new vault lid and or safety netting or grading under safety purpose. So since that meeting, we've reached out to multiple vendors. I've got some additional information. Really, everybody these days uses an actual grading underneath lids. The netting really isn't produced anymore. It kind of deteriorates over time. So, and then the other piece was, can we put the grading in now with an existing lid, which some vendors won't even sell the lid without the grading, or won't sell the grading without the lid. So we would have to go out and retrofit. The cost and time associated with that really wouldn't be feasible. Lead time on just the grading alone was 10 weeks versus 14 weeks on the finish. So the plan moving forward would be to just replace the hatch and add the safety fall protection grading at the same time as one piece that you'd have essentially coming from the same manufacturer. Cost on just equipment is around probably $3,000. But we would have to procure a trade contractor to install it. So that's an unknown cost at this point, but it's something we are continuing to pursue moving forward on replacing that hatch and install the fall protection grading.
Okay. Very good, thanks. All right, and Deidre, you wanted to bring the general manager report out?
Where's Finn swim?
Where is it?
Where is it?
It's at 2978 and basically a little south of Woodlands Parkway. It's next to the Republic Grill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then the sanitary sewer evaluation and manhole inspection, you're in phase 2. And it should be done by the end of August, and we're gonna get to look at that, right?
There are plans being prepared now, which Mud 46 is a participant in construction plans. We anticipate going to advertise that project in September, October, bid that project in the November timeframe, and hopefully get a contractor under contract, construction contractor by December, January. But once the plans are completed and the signatures have been made, we'll put them on the Google Drive.
I'll look at it beforehand if you wanted me to.
If you got time, we'd be happy to have you look at it. Yeah.
I can see it. Okay, so the UCMR, we have to do analysis for PFAS. For the contaminant monitoring rule. So we have to do it for a 12-month period between 23 and 25. The new rules that have come out basically have like no limits allowable recommended for PFAS. Very, very, very minimal.
Right.
Do we have any any data on PFAS, or we haven't?
I don't have any data, but I think Chris may have something. Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to ask the question. TCQ notice of violation. Dead end means, what has the response been from the TCQ?
Well, we've offered some different proposals, and then we've kind of hit pause since Jim has been out with back surgery and our superintendent's been out with a broken ankle. So we've offered some different options. They haven't come back with any yay or nay just yet.
Okay.
The problem is we have a lot of dead end lines in reality, but a lot of those dead end lines are within just a few feet of someone's tap, someone's home. So it seems sort of counterintuitive to go flush 2 feet of line. It's a waste of time and a waste of water, but the rules say you need to flush it every 30 days. So we're trying to either get a waiver of that or get some sort of compromise
Okay.
for that. Because this is, nothing's changed. I mean, our operation hasn't changed. So why we were not cited for this ever before is kind of a mystery.
Yeah, I get it. I
Yeah.
just wanted to ask what, if they've been receptive to it or if they just have been non-responsive.
They've been very non-committal.
Okay.
You know, we provided them our flushing log for the annual flushing of the fire hydrants. And that used to be what they were looking for, but apparently somebody else is looking for something else.
Yeah, I get it. I've been there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a quick question on the sawmill drainage ditch repair.
Okay.
You have a statement in here that talks about TCEQ inspection and approved project closeout and disbursement of funds.
Yes.
Is that the 125,000 FEMA dollars we've been talking about?
Correct.
And do you have a feel for when they would give you that money?
Well, they just approved the time extension about a month ago. It took that long to get a 1-day time extension approved. So I really don't have a feel.
So
I'm hopeful,
it'll be in the
I'm
next
hopeful it's
fiscal
by
year.
the end of this fiscal year, but I'm confident it'll be by the end of the calendar year,
Yeah.
but I don't think we'll.
I was
It's hard to
looking
tell.
see where it fits in the budget.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Okay, good. Looks like they're approving the whole amount.
Looks like it so far, yeah. They've accepted all the pay estimates, accepted the closeout document, received the closeout total, paid the inspections. Just kind of waiting. What else?
All right, anything else? Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving on. Item 12. Consider an act on the request from Mr. Alan Hedegren. I believe at last month's meeting, we decided that we needed 4 things, and engineers, okay. And okay from the residents, okay from the township, and Sterling Ridge Village Association.
We do have our engineer, Donnie Reed, here tonight to discuss his opinion.
Okay,
He did have some questions for me that I was not able to answer after our last month's meeting. So I think the township here or somebody here, maybe someone can answer those questions.
okay.
Good evening, Donnie Reed, your district engineer. So Mike had called me and said that last meeting y'all had talked about possibly putting some trees in or around the far west detention pond. That's right off of ditch J, I believe.
6J.
6J, yeah, 6J, out there. Putting in trees is gonna be a negligible impact to the capacity. You basically have about a 1-foot freeboard in the detention pond. So if you put trees on the side slope, it's probably gonna be less than 1% of an impact. But unless we know what kind of tree, what size of tree, it's gonna be maintained. There's a lot of variables that go into it. But if you're gonna go plant trees and put it out there and maintain it, it's probably not gonna be a problem. It's gonna be an issue. But for us to do an engineering study or analysis, then there's a lot of little details we have to go through, and it's, I don't know if you want to spend that money for us to go and analyze just something that's gonna have an impact of probably 1% on the capacity. If we're talking about putting them on the inside of the detention pond, on the slope of that, it's not gonna be a problem. If we're talking outside the detention pond, it really comes down to just a maintenance issue, because you do have water that runs from the back of the lights or from the area, you know, across the maintenance berm, and also into the backslope swell and runs into the ditch. Well, if you've got trees there, that it may be harder to mow. It may impact the passage for vehicles to get back there and maintain it. Those tree roots may grow into the backslope drain. I mean, there's a lot of things that could be an issue. As far as engineering, so it's on Mike, I just don't see anything hydraulically or hydraulics that's gonna cause a problem, but it's more of a maintenance issue and potential erosion or something that being an issue.
So the drainage, the way it looks to me, is they're drainage pipes that run underneath the berm or underneath the slope into the,
A good map to kind of speak to?
yeah, it's a good map.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to just like point out where you're talking
Yeah,
and stuff?
on this side, it's the west side.
No, I know, but just to make sure that Donnie
Sure.
sees the
So
picture.
we're not talking about the basin itself inside the track.
Okay.
We're talking about where the blue line is.
Yeah, as far as engineering and capacity in the detention pond, I don't see that being an
So you're saying that this side slope, this is the side slope, right? And it goes down to bottom trail.
Mhm.
Then it goes down to like, I don't remember, wet dry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like wet dry or something.
It's all dry.
So a foot from, let's say, just wherever the berm is your freeboard.
No, your freeboard's right here. Your
Freeboard's here? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so
So-
this here is the maintenance barn that's outside the,
Okay, this is the maintenance berm. And then where's the side slope?
Where the blue
I'm talking
line
about
is.
this slight slope right here.
This
Here,
side
here.
slope down
Yes,
here.
Yes. Yes, that's where I was talking about. And that's when Mike first mentioned it to me, that's where we kind of looked at it, as I was saying here. But if you're putting it in here.
Yeah, it's from the existing tree line that's already there
To that.
down into the pond on that side.
In the 30-foot maintenance berm. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Above that.
That's
Pond comes up to a maintenance berm and then it comes up again to the Springtime Creek residence
okay, so above the maintenance berm,
above the maintenance.
above the maintenance berm.
Yeah.
And you were speaking about maintenance, so,
Yes, because when I'm saying hydraulically, from an engineering standpoint, it's not gonna affect your capacity. And the intent of the detention pond, the detention pond is made to contain water and storm.
you thought that the trees were here though, right?
Place that you put-
Yeah. Trees are here.
It's not gonna impact-
You see trees. Trees are here along Blue.
Right.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that plant a tree over there, you're gonna have roots that are gonna grow, you're gonna have to maintain it, it could cause erosion, side slope failure, those are issues that y'all need to think about. But from an engineering standpoint, it's not gonna affect what the
The hydraulic.
detention pond was intended
Okay.
to build.
And that's a large hillside. I should call it,
How,
but
how tall is that berm?
are we talking about, when you looked at it, you know, if you, if you go to the edge of the property line where the road is, the development road, and you come down off that, how far are you contemplating in your analysis that the tree line would come down?
That's what Alan had proposed was 10 feet.
10 feet from that down.
The, Dan Colkhurst and others have said above the elevation of the spillway. And I think, Alan says 10 feet down, you know,
10 feet down, yeah.
something, but the real threshold is above the spillway.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying, that it's to put in trees, to put something into the detention pond. Wherever you're gonna put those, it's gonna, what I need to know, is what kind of tree it's gonna be in there and what the size of the tree. I mean, if you put a tree that's a 6-inch tree right now, 15 years, it can be 15 inches, it can be more than that. Roots are gonna grow. It's a maintenance issue, but if that tree's 6 inches or 24 inches, is gonna take up volume in the detention pond. When we run the calculations, those little numbers are almost negligible, so it's probably gonna be a 1% increase or decrease in their capacity. That is something that we really can't, it's hard for us to model, and I don't know if you wanna spend thousands of dollars for us to go model just a few trees.
No, we don't.
Exactly, and you don't wanna do that. So from an engineering standpoint, whether it's on.
It's not in the budget
The
yet.
first side slope or the second side slope, engineering wise, how the detention pond works, it's not gonna have a.
So
a
just,
conveyance.
just so I'm aware, this is the picture, this is the trail. They want trees where? More right here?
More down the slope. From
Right
those
here?
trees, yeah, from there, from your finger up.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that. But we said no.
Right, from the existing tree line down about 10 feet down the side.
Okay.
There's no slope yet.
And how do they mow it now? Like, how do they mow this?
We mow it with slope mowers now, but there's no,
So where's the
trees.
mower? I'm a visual person, like where would my mower be?
it would be on the slope like this.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it'd be on. the
I wouldn't
slope.
do it, but okay,
Yeah,
okay. So you're saying that if we plant trees, it'd be the same situation, but we would have more of a maintenance issue.
Correct.
Yeah,
I mean, the detention pond, as you know, detention pond is designed to reduce the flow rate of developed property to the pre-existing condition. Adding however many trees, if you're gonna add a ton of trees, it may have an impact, right? And a few, probably not. Those are the kind of questions that I would need to know to officially say it. But from what I've seen in like in Midward, I live down in Pearland, there's trees that are planted all along the side slopes of the detention pond. But they're spaced out, it's mowed around, has minimal impact to the detention.
yeah, it's not a big thicket like it was
Yeah.
before Flacco cleared their property.
So as far as you're asking me from the engineering side, that's what it is. When it comes to the maintenance side, that's what Mike and his group's gonna have to, instead of just running that mower down the side slope, and just going along, they're gonna have to go around trees, they're gonna have to make sure they're watered, they're gonna make sure that when it does rain and it starts to, does it add any more runoff to the side slope, to a rain or whatever?
Number, we've got three things we want to talk
3
about.
feet from
We want
the
to talk about the engineering,
walking path.
a survey of
Everything
the
up.
residents, and then
They can't
number
be like
3 is maintenance by the
trees, they have to
township.
be like super.
And so that's
Yeah.
coming down the line.
So that's what they're anticipating.
Well, I don't think they've come
You know,
up with.
Alan's
plans
planted some
of how
trees.
many trees. they
And out in the, I call it
Plant the trees.
the outside gate, it's property line. And what he did was he went to the Audubon Society, and got a bunch of seedlings.
Picture.
So if it just happens, if we all come down the Woodlands Parkway and we make a right on the 2978 and you go up about a mile, there's a CubeSmart business there. Well, either before or after that, the state has put in a water retention a pond, dry pond. And they've put around there very substantial planting of trees. And I think that's what, I was going to suggest to Alan tonight that, to him, I've been telling him, you need to develop a plan on how you're going to do this and how you're going to pay for it. And he should go out and look. We all might, next time you drive, is look at what the state did to restore the forest. It's a substantial planting. And it was, obviously it just wasn't done ad hoc. And I think, if the community wants, if, Alan and the state was going to do this, planting a seedling that you get.
Well, that's what we're doing now. We're just getting the first
Right.
speed bump
But,
taken care of,
yeah,
which is just a
so I
permission.
think it needs to
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
that's a substantial planting that the state did.
Yeah.
That-
Those are not cheap trees.
And I know, and that's what Alan's thinking, but he should go, I was going to encourage him, and I'll call him and say, you need to go back and look at that. And I even called the Tech dot guy, and he may even give you the cost, the worksheet. And take that to the township.
The plans are public record. But those were in the plans, like to begin with, so we don't,
What's that?
those trees.
No, I mean, I'm just finding the cost and who did it and, to further Alan's thought process and what he needs to,
Yeah,
you
that's-
sell a
that's-
plan to the township.
That's future.
That's future, but that's where he's at
Yeah,
and
but we're just crossing the first hurdle.
but I
tonight.
understand.
So, all
I
right.
appreciate you looking at it. I appreciate understanding of it. And I completely agree that you need more information to make a decision.
But if we're talking, a few trees in there, I mean, you've got a big pond that's out there. And so if we add, a few trees around there, that's, a drop in the bucket. So it's probably not gonna have an impact. If he's wanting to line that whole thing with trees where you can't, I think you're barely walking between them, that may be a different story, but I don't think that's the intent. Or if you're gonna have trees and then have, like the Woodlands is, where you have a tree and then you have the tallow and all the underbrush that grows up through it, that might be an issue. Those are issues that are there. But if you're talking a tree and then a little bit further, another tree, and a little bit further, another tree, probably not gonna be an issue, because I mean, you've got a bowl, basically, this is big, and you're just gonna put, a couple of little trees in there. And so like I said, it's hard, and I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, without getting too technical, but if you start really getting into it, then I'd have to determine the size of the tree, where it is, and it just gives a lot of calculations that,
I don't think we need that.
Yeah, we don't. All right, well, thank you very much.
What about, can you speak to the maintenance?
Can we keep going?
Well, I can tell you that
Keep
it
going on another path for a second.
would up the cost of maintenance,
Okay.
like Donnie said. Instead of just mowing down one straight line, it's mowing around the trees, each individual tree or trees. It just adds to the cost.
Okay.
So I want to go down the path. The next thing I wanted to bring up is Alan has gone out and gotten survey data. He sent out an email today that I think all of us have received. He's gotten 84 responses now for the whole area.
I thought you meant like topographic survey. I was like, wow.
Neighborhood survey, you
I got it.
and,
I got it.
and, yeah, and David and Fred all asked for more feedback from residents.
Yes.
And he got it. He got 84 people to come back. All of them say yes, no negative comments. 15 out of the 27 that are on, what's the name of that road? Springtime Creek. 15 out of 27 have said yes. So, and we can go through the survey if you want, but it looks like it's all positive.
I read the survey. Sorry, I did think you were talking about a topographic
I'm
survey.
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm an engineer, but I think politics sometimes.
okay.
The last one, I included a letter in the packet. It's a draft letter to the township. I addressed it to Chris Nunes, who's Chief Operating Officer, and John McGowan. And really what I'm trying to do with this letter is introduce, here's what we've looked at so far, and ask the township to do the maintenance. They currently maintain the park and detention basin at Windvale Park. And so there is a precedent for doing that even in Mud 46. So this is what I wanted to get acceptance from y'all on is, can we go ask the township for support? And I guess the only other comment I wanted to make was, Deidre, you mentioned that Sterling Ridge Village Association ought to be consulted. And so
I don't
Fred and I gave a little talk to the Village Association, and they voted to support us.
I can't find your letter. I read your letter.
It's on page 51.
I didn't have comments on your letter. My questions would be more geared towards, if we ask the township to maintain that, do they now have ownership, like from a certain point up the side slope? And if the side slope fails, they're responsible? We're responsible if the side slope failed.
No change in ownership happens unless property interest that the district owns would be conveyed to the township. So
So we're responsible if the side slope fails.
What fails?
unless there's a conveyance,
Side slope?
of real estate interest, I think we've had,
Oh, she wants to talk about
I
that.
know we've done like
About
a
this
fresh
from the
granite
townships.
walking trail around the district detention pond. I don't
This
think
one
we
here,
had,
we did it around this one.
I don't think we had any property interest transfer that I can recall.
So the township maintains that. And they would just be maintaining like the whole side slope with the trees and everything.
They do maintain the trail. They sweeten up the gravel and the granite when needed. It's kind of a low maintenance item, really. There's no four-wheelers or any other, it's just walking and bicycles. So it's not a whole lot of maintenance, but yes, they do maintain it.
Okay, and then we would ask them to maintain that side slope and then we maintain from the trail down.
Tree line down, I would say, to the back slope drain, and then from the top of the maintenance berm down to the bottom.
Oh, you want them to maintain the inside of the pond?
We would maintain that.
Okay.
We would maintain from the newly planted tree line down into the pond.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I think that that's maybe all that you would have to spell out is where our maintenance responsibility would lie, where their maintenance responsibility would lie.
I'm picturing, I've got a draft letter here. I'm picturing our staff needs to talk to Chris Nunes and his staff and make sure that we're all on the same page. And I'm picturing, Brian, that at some point you and the township are gonna have to come up with an agreement between us.
It depends on how far the board and township want to go to formalize it. It could be a maintenance agreement where they essentially act as a contractor on behalf of the district. You know, like instead of us hiring champions or some other environmental allies or somebody to maintain something, we're basically hiring or the township's agreeing to do it at no cost to the district and have some sort of maintenance agreement if the parties wanted to formalize it in that way. But that's to be determined.
Is the running path formalized?
Not that it predates me. I don't recall an agreement, but we have to
I
check.
think we just reviewed and approved their plan. Yeah, I don't recall any kind of formal maintenance agreement, but they do maintain it.
You said Terry wants to talk.
Terry, you're with the township. Do you have any perspective that you want to communicate?
News came to that Mitch to inquire a little bit more about exactly what your plan was, but park operations is, they have no dog in this fight. So what we are doing and would continue to do is mow whatever that strip is, 24 inches or whatever it is on either side of the crushed granite gravel pathway, as we have been doing.
Yeah.
And while in other circumstances, there might be a will to assist with some watering or such for newly planted trees. Right now, we're spending so much money every day watering the trees that are already in place, trying to keep as few million trees from dying as possible during the drought. They are not willing to make any further commitment at this point about helping with water, although, you know, the suggestion was made that perhaps, faster than mud, you might just install a meter on either of those two lines and run a temporary drip line for the first year or so. That would be something that you
I
could
think
handle.
the real issue, there's two of them. One of them is selection of trees and getting them put in. And MUD really doesn't have expertise in that. And we're hoping that the development company will help fund that. But as far as selecting trees and spotting them and deciding how to put them in, we would like to look to the township for guidance and really make it happen.
That could possibly happen. What I can
So
tell you is,
This is what we're asking for in our letter. And if you want to see a copy of it, it's in the packet there on page 51. But it's, at this point, it's a draft. It may need to be reworked, but we need to, amongst ourselves, say, okay, we want to try to do that.
and so as your engineers already said, yes, that tree selection is going to be critical to not so much how you're going to affect the retention pond's ability to hold or not hold the water, but more about the maintenance issues and, you know, transpiration loss and that kind of stuff. So the tree selection is important for a lot of reasons. And you're planting it in a based on what I don't know, it's my understanding that berm is mostly just the fill dirt that came out of the pond.
Correct.
So it's not necessarily gonna be great soil. My first recommendation would be get soil tests done in several locations. See what the status of that soil is. It may need some initial amendment, but then choose trees that are well suited to that particular place. And yes, there are people who can advise on that. But the other thing about it is if you need some sort of assistance in purchasing trees, by the end of this month, the park operations is gonna be letting that bid to purchase about 3,000 trees to replace trees that we're already losing and anticipate losing, as well as a couple of reforestation projects. And they're very willing to talk to you about letting you join them in placing that order. You would have to pay for what trees you want, but you could get a much better deal by participating with them on that bid process to purchase trees. They would just add how many you want and you could purchase.
Okay, what I'm trying to do today is to get us here to agree on giving permission for planting trees. And-
You don't need park operations.
I know that. And so that's the first one. And then the second one is we'll come to y'all and ask for y'all's involvement. And that's what we got here in this letter.
That's gonna be.
So, you know, Chris can say,
Decision, but you
Okay.
know, my sense is making recommendations to you based on what we're planting in similar locations should be pretty easy to get an agreement on.
Okay.
Happy.
Let me make one final comment here. In Alan's letter here, it does say that there is an existing drip irrigation line out there, but he says it, apparently it's broken. Could we get that repaired?
It's not ours, it would belong to the township.
Oh, okay, can we find out who owns that and maybe repair it?
It's not in the park, it's not gonna be ours.
It's on those trees, it's on that tree line that's already planted up on top.
Along the residential road,
Along
right?
that Springtime Creek Road.
it
There's
could
a
be,
sliver of trees that are planted that the township planted, and there is drip irrigation in there.
Okay. All right, well, I'll make a motion that MUD 46 conditionally approved.
I don't want to conditionally approve anything yet until I see like his plan on trees. What type, I think that there needs to be more planning, to David's point.
well,
I
we
think-
need to, I think we need to go ahead and say, we will give permission to plant trees there. You know, I don't see any technical reason not to. That's what I'd like to do is get through the first threshold.
Can we say that we agree to plan for trees?
I'd like to give permission to plant trees. And then we'll
Does
work
that
on
mean that
how
they
to
can
do
just
it.
go plant them?
No,
And the second one is ask the township to give us direction and support in maintaining those trees. The township may come back and say, no, we're not going to do that, but I'd like to ask them.
Okay, I'm kind of nervous about the wording of permission. I'm just nervous about the
I
wording.
mean, I'm in favor of planting trees. And my advice to Alan was that he should come up with a plan. That's at least a half mile strip.
1,700 feet.
1,700 feet, okay, by 10 feet. You know, you could go out and put one tree every 15 feet, you know, in that normal way. But I don't think that's not what he has in mind.
We would really prefer not to just turn it open to Alan and everybody in the neighborhood.
Well,
We'd like to have an organized effort where it's not just random stuff.
yeah, I know. What I'm saying is that there has to be, I mean, I don't think the MUD is gonna work on a plan, like a detailed plan to make this work. I mean, it's really between,
No, it needs to be done by
Right, we-
a landscaper.
so we're gonna, we agree that we give permission for the planning phase to go forward.
okay, so why don't we just make a resolution to develop a plan?
Well, I think I think it's really a community effort, meaning Alan has started the ball rolling. And I think since other than the only contribution we're gonna make is the permission.
Right.
by their permission.
That's right.
But really, Alan has a lot of work to do with the township to convince, them that
I
between the
think-
community and the joint effort, this moves forward.
Yeah, so the next step is a plan.
We just need
So
to give
that's all we're
permission
doing
to.
today, is
We
permission to
need,
proceed with the
we
plan.
need to not forget that the development company has offered to help us. Or help Allen or help the township. And I'm thinking it's really help the township.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And
Help
I
the
think we ought to focus getting the township to be the
Yeah.
focal point for making it happen.
I think what we're saying is we're not opposed to using our property to plant trees. We need more information. Like that,
Well,
and
can
it's not on us.
we give permission to do it? And
I
move to
don't
the
know if I
next-
need any more information. I just need to say, Alan, you have our blessing to go forth and
Come up with a plan
plant
for
trees
our
in
approval.
our
A plan.
property, and you work it out with the township, the developer and
I think we're putting.
and your community, and
We're beating this horse to
right,
death.
we're beating horse.
Let's
We're
make a
putting too much
motion.
burden on Allen. We need to move it forward to the township.
Well, no, I know, but I guess the impression I have, unless one of us gets really involved in helping Alan and his neighbors are gonna, go forth and convince the township.
They got our permission.
They got a permission, convince the township to take action. I'm in favor of it.
Okay,
Right.
so let's do it two pieces. The
Okay.
first piece that we seem to agree on for sure is we will agree to allow trees to be planted on that strip that's indicated in blue on the.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it, but there is a little sliver indicated in blue on the east side
I
of it.
thought we were only west side.
I thought we were only west side, but it's highlighted on.
I put that there because that corner is not under the power lines.
I guess I would say
If
this,
you want to just say
the
west side.
1,700 times 10, that's a lot of acreage to plant a lot of trees. And I would, he can always come back for a second helping.
Well, yeah, you're talking about something way down in the future.
I know that. I know.
Let's just get the first hurdle
We
done. and
we
give
talked about
permission.
the west side. I'm ready to vote for the
Okay.
west side.
All
Let's
right.
stay west side.
Make a motion.
A motion that we give permission for trees to be planted on the west side slope of the Spindle Tree detention basin.
Second the motion.
North, up on the upside of the maintenance firm, wherever the foot area is.
Okay.
Gotta be specific. for you.
Above the,
Little bit more
let's be engineering specific and say above the elevation of the spillway.
That, are you comfortable? Because that's, ultimately, you're asking your engineer to be
Yeah.
comfortable with where these trees are gonna be planted. What do you need in terms of your comfort level? in that location?
Why don't we just have them come back after the plan is developed?
Yeah, I think that you're approving a concept,
Concept of what you want to do.
Okay.
the planting of trees, requesting a plan that can be approved by your engineer and then submitted to the township to try to get them to implement that plan.
Okay. All right.
I'm okay with that.
So-
Okay.
Like, it-
Okay,
Let's try this again, George.
okay.
Horse is almost dead.
No, it's been dead 10 times already.
We grant permission for the planting of trees on the west side of the Spindle Tree detention basin on the slope above the elevation of the spillway. Anything else?
And subject to the development of a tree installation plan
Okay,
that is presented to the board and the engineer for
okay,
final approval.
okay,
The word plan, very important.
okay.
All right. All right. I second the motion.
Okay.
All those in favor?
I-
Aye. Opposed? All right.
Y'all, one
Motion's passed.
last question. Y'all support sending a letter like this to Chris News?
Yes. Yes. I'll even sign it.
Okay. All right.
All right.
We'll get it put on letterhead. I guess that's Shelley with signature lines and all that.
I'll sign.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on. Item number 13, review the district's
you.
fiscal year operating budget.
Okay, should have gotten your budget. Two-sided budget, draft budget, sits for review and comment. It's not for any approval or action tonight. There is a budget memo prepared by Jim and Maureen that explains the ups and downs of the budget, if you will. There is a typo on the second page of the memo. I want to point out. I'm sure someone's already caught it. Under the SJRA bulk wholesale and mud retail water sewer rates, the last sentence of that little bullet point is, we are budgeting a residential sewer increase from 485 to 553, not 853.
What page, where's that? The insert?
The second page of the budget memo.
Oh, thank you. That was,
Yeah, that was kind of alarming for everybody.
553.
That caught it.
Yes. Is there also a typo when in the sentence for maintenance and debt service? Should it be the, agree on the totals? The totals decreasing from 20974 to 20490. But should the maintenance be decreasing? It says maintenance. These are the numbers that I have, and I just don't know if the words made sense. I think that it says the maintenance rate, the increase to the maintenance rate to 0.03250. And I think that that's
Talking
debt
about,
service.
No,
Adam's
the
letter?
Rate, and it is increasing.
The maintenance and debt service tax, just the last
Page
the
2.
last paragraph there.
Miranda.
If I could just get you to like look at my little table and see if I'm right or not. Maybe I'm not right. I was just trying to understand. My little table at the bottom.
Yeah, so 20974 was last year's rate.
Yeah, the debt service.
Okay, so I want to make sure that it was flipped. So, okay.
Flipped off.
How does it have to?
The maintenance that you have, that's last year's debt service.
Okay.
I think the box on the top of your budget page is accurate.
Like that?
Top of this page. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You wrote
I think we had some other questions.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm wondering if got to get Mike to give, I'm sorry, Adam to give his comments first, and then I got a few questions,
Yeah, that's fine.
detailed questions on the budget.
That's fine. Yeah, let's go with the tax rate recommendation.
So on page 53, there's going to be a letter with Jan's signature on it, and page 54. Real quick, I'll just remind you that the tax rate setting process is a two-step process. So all you're doing today is authorizing publication of the total tax rate.
Mhm.
Next month, you'll have your public hearing, and then you'll adopt your tax rate and actually break out the total tax rate into the maintenance and operations portion and debt service portion. Keeping in mind, you always want to publish the highest rate you'll consider, because next month you can always come down from that number. You just can't go up without republishing. So I'll run through really quickly on the letter. The January 1, 22 certified value came in at 4.17 billion. That does include about 89 million of uncertified, but that's a 13% increase from last year's 3.6 billion. You can see some of the generic assumptions: 99% collections, interest earnings on existing fund balance at 0.5%, which thankfully we're well above that. But if you flip to the second page, last year you needed 19 3/4 pennies in order to pay your debt service. In the middle column, you see that you only need just under 17 1/4 pennies. And real quick, if you want, David and Tom, I can run through the cash flow really quick to explain it. But this is your outstanding principal and interest on bonds that are still outstanding for your district. But the first column is your year ending, calendar year ending, keeping in mind that you're collecting your taxes in arrears. So when you end up levying next month for 22, you're actually collecting those in 23.
Mhm.
So everything is off by a row. Second column is your beginning fund balance as of June 30th. And then your fund interest earnings, we assumed 0.5%. Moving over to the next populated column is your prior year taxable EV. And just as I mentioned, the 3.686 billion is your 21 certified. So just keep that in mind. And then your 22, the 4.172, which is a 13% increase. The next column is your tax rate, 17.24 cents, and that's your debt service tax rate. The 7.12 million in collections in your next column would be what you would collect on that 17.24 cents. Total funds available would be the existing fund balance plus your collections in that given year. And then the next two columns are the same, your current debt service and your total debt service, because we're not showing any potential bond fundings. And then the second to right column is your ending fund balance year over year. And then all the way to the right is your debt service coverage. And just to remind you, the TCEQ requires that we maintain a minimum of 25% of your following year's debt service. So you're good there. And then some of the more informative information down below. The first box is in regards to your M&O rate. Your 21 rate was 0.01224. The proposed rate is 3.25 pennies, which would generate, you can look all the way to the right, 1.3 million. The parity rate, if you want to raise the same amount of funds that you did last year, you would need 0.0108. The M&O rate to balance your budget is about 1.5 pennies. So in this scenario, if you were to look at about a 3.25 penny M&O rate, you would generate just over 700,000 in surplus. And just to remind you, the value of a penny in your district is about $413,000. So keep that in mind. The middle set of boxes is your homestead information. So it's your tax bill information. Last year's average homestead value was $449,485, which meant that tax bill would be $943. If you take this recommendation today, based on the new homestead value of $496,880, that tax bill would be $1,018, which means it's a $75 increase year over year. The percentage change would be 7.99%. And then if you look at the bottom box, the total proposed rate would be 20.49 cents, which would be a decrease from last year of 20.974 cents. So you're talking about almost 0.5 penny decrease, or to be exact, 0.00484 cent decrease. The parity rate, 18.97 cents. And then the total rate to avoid a rollback election would be 20.4913 cents. And so that is kind of where we started with respect to the recommendation. In talking with staff, you have, I believe, just over 3 months reserve. And in order to start trying to build that back up, this would give you a great head start.
Okay.
I'll pause there to answer any questions.
Could you describe the rollback election here?
Sure.
I mean, I understand it a little bit, but I think you may, or Brian may understand it better than me.
Yeah, so it starts with the determination of whether you're a developer or developing district. We went through that drill a few months ago. Peyton said that too.
Yes.
So this district, and your engineer certifies as to whether you're developed or developing. So you are a developing district, meaning that you can generate up to 8% more maintenance and operation, well, actually total tax revenue, combination of your debt service and your maintenance and operations revenue on an average homestead before you are subject to a potential rollback election. If you exceed that number, which here is the 0.204913, if you exceed that, the voters in your district can petition to force a rollback election. If that rollback election is successful, if it is petitioned and forced, then the result of the election, if the voters did not approve the rate that you set, they cannot roll back your debt service rate. They can only roll back your maintenance and operation rate to a rate that would be no more than that 8% increase. And so that's the last number there, the 0.01198, if there was a rollback election on your maintenance and operations. So you do not want to exceed the 8% total because you do not want to potentially subject yourself to an election that would push your maintenance tax down that far. Because right now, because your debt service is going down, you're able to move money from your debt service to your M&O to start to replenish your reserve. Because right now you're at, actually under 3 months. If you look on the bottom of the spreadsheet here, we're down at what, like 2.7?
2.7.
So, staff will recommend, I know policy decision by board, but staff generally recommends 9 to 12 months for districts that are aging. So you are well under that. You've got a large tax base, so you can replenish it more easily. However, we've been running a deficit for several years now since the board adopted a general residential homestead exemption. That's when the structural situation changed. We started to have these deficits. So this is your first opportunity to start to replenish that bleed that you've been experiencing, predated a number of you board members, since the decision was made to adopt the general residential homestead exemption. So that's what's happening here. Is the recommendation is to move some of that money over as your debt service goes down over to maintenance and operations to start to replenish that reserve, but not generate so much that you expose yourself to a rollback.
Okay. All right.
So we had a larger balance coming back a little more than a year ago. So by paying for the meters and paying for the Bear Branch out of cash,
Correct.
we drove that down.
Correct. You did drive that, did magnify your deficit. So right now you're in negative, projected actual negative 3.3. Prior years, you were, you see 33,000, 993,000, 1.1 million. So that number's been going up. You've got, you got that off your books of that one-time large capital outlay, but you do have this opportunity to start to replenish some. Also, your balance will kind of drift down over the course of the year because you get this slug of maintenance tax money at the early in your fiscal year, and then it just kind of, you start to spend that down over the course. So you'll see that gradually drift over the course of your fiscal year, and that's natural.
Can you explain when you say a slug of maintenance tax?
Because it's due, the maintenance tax is due, all tax bills are due by, January 31. So you get all your maintenance tax money at one time. So I say it's a slug by that due date, but you're relying on that amount of money to pay your bills throughout the year. You're not generating enough water sewer revenue to pay all of your expenses and pay your wholesale rate to the river authority. So you're relying on that one amount of money.
So when you say M&O rate, you really talk about property tax.
The component, yes, the component, so it's two components, right? One component of the property tax is for the debt service.
Debt service.
The rest of it is to fund your operations. So
But we get it all.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And the debt service is put in escrow
Correct.
each quarter.
Twice a year,
Twice a year.
it goes to your paying agent to make your twice a year debt service payments. One of the payments per year is interest only and the other is principal and
Principal.
interest. That's how all your debt structured.
So basically that's captured into a different account.
Exactly. There's a separate debt service account. You've got bond covenants that require you to keep it in a separate account. Yes, sir.
All right. So I guess we have a month to review these.
Review these. One
Well,
other question.
Do we have we need to give input today, right?
We need to give Adam
We have to
notice
do
of what we
it,
want to publish.
we have to do it today. Yeah, today is just publication and we have a month to sit there and get back with them.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to make a motion that we authorize the publication of the recommendation.
In the Courier, it's got to be a newspaper of general circulation in the
Okay.
county, so that's why it's the Courier. Some boards have said they also want to do it in the Villager because they think more people read
Okay.
it. That's up to y'all. It's $800 something extra, not legally required, but legally you have to authorize publication in the Courier.
I noticed that the county did it in one of these little
You can do that.
things like this.
You can do a stuffer.
I noticed also that on the AMI meters, we've only got a 30% participation. Can we also kill two birds with one stone by mailing out the tax rate information, plus ask people to register on AMI on one of these?
A new welcome letter plan is already in the budget, but actually comes from WaterSmart, so I don't think that they can add any additional information.
Okay.
So it's-
All right, well, I'll let you guys, but I make a motion that we authorize the publication of these rates for distribution amongst the district,
Recommended rate.
the recommended rate. All right,
I'll
Should it
second.
just be in the Chronicle or the Villager?
Courier.
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 Courier or the Villager?
Just do it with the
Courier, I think that's the minimum legal.
Yes, it's just a matter of if you want to voluntarily, in addition to the courier, do the villager. I think we've had what, 1 or 2 districts decide to do that. That's
Okay.
it.
Just do it with the courier.
Yeah, thanks.
It's $8.50 per ad.
Okay, all right, makes sense. All right, I need a second.
Second.
On just the courier.
Just the courier. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Could I ask one more question? The parity rate.
Hmm?
Is that like, in the county government, right? They have what they call the effective tax rate.
That's
Is
what
that
it
a
is.
similar,
That's a synonym. It's the exact same.
same
rate.
thing?
Parity and effective rate are synonymous.
So when we talk about the budget, I think I'd like to know, I guess, what do we have to be at? How does that, if we are at the parity rate, what does that mean? I think I'd like to hear about that.
So
I mean,
on the budget side, from a parity, if you wanted to raise the same
same line.
dollar amount from last year, then you would need to levy, you see that third line in the top box? It'd be 0.0108 cents,
So it's 0.08.
and that would generate approximately the same
Okay.
amount of revenue.
For maintenance.
Correct.
And that would result in an overall tax decrease.
Correct.
And
A
a
rate
because-
decrease.
And
No.
a deficit.
It would result in your bond fund has a separate tax rate. So that tax rate's coming down. You can see it's here, it's 0.17, it was 0.19. So that tax rate's coming down and,
And that's feeding the M and O
Right.
reserve.
Correct.
Right.
right,
Okay.
Correct. If you
Flipping.
did
So
that,
you-
you'd lose 800,000 of operating revenue, and your surplus here would go from 350 up. You flip it, minus 800 and some thousand, so you'd be at a negative 500.
Maureen has generated or updated the 5-year projection. I don't know if y'all pass that around to David.
Is that this?
No,
No.
this one here.
Over here. I need one. So the key here is, we've been, last year, we reduced the reserve significantly, where we only had a couple of months of reserve left. They're trying to build that back up.
All right, let's move on. Item 15, receive an update on the Spring Creek detention study. Did we have an update on that, Chris?
I can get an update.
Okay,
Just real quick, we canceled our August progress meeting. We do plan to have a progress meeting, funding for stakeholders September 20th. Really, the postponing of that has been due to the coordination timeframe with the Water Development Board to make sure we're not going in a direction that would go against the grant contract and scope of work that was approved by them. So we wanted to make sure they were on the same page with us for what anything we're doing. Main thing we're going to present for consultant on September 20th is what we've been referring to as the decision matrix on how we proceed with the project, the various options, pros, cons, et cetera. To the funding partners. But
okay,
short where we're at.
all right, very good. Anything else? Any questions for Dan? All right, let's move on. Attorney's report, do you have anything?
No journal items.
Okay, 17, designation of a new meeting date. I'm going to recommend that we table that until next month when Fred will be here. Can we do that?
Yeah.
All right.
Does the staff have any recommendations?
We've picked out a couple of days that will work for us. I think Brian's got a couple of choices.
If you throw those out real quick.
Yeah. Monday, the meeting week, the same meeting week. We like to keep them the same meeting week because it's just more convenient to host for postings and so forth. So the Monday of the week at 2 p.m. would work for all of us. The Tuesday of meeting week at 1:30 would work for all of us. For the Wednesday meeting week at 9 or 10 a.m.
To those times.
It's just at least a couple hours, yeah.
So the question is, you guys that are working in those times,
So just so y'all are aware, the hours that I take here, I'm taking off.
So
So
you lose money.
I'm losing money. I'm taking
You're
my,
taking off net.
I'm taking my PTO or I'm making up my hours later in the week. So,
4:30 meeting.
so going to a 3-hour meeting is not beneficial to me whatsoever. So I would like to kind of stay within a range of, maybe we go from 1.5-hour meeting to a 2-hour meeting. That's doable, but I'm not anticipating a 3-hour meeting or 4-hour meeting. The Monday, well, I don't know, a 2.5-hour meeting.
so Monday was at 2 p.m. Tuesday was what time?
It was 2 p.m. because we have another meeting at 5. Tuesday was at 1:30 p.m.
4:30. I guess if that's a 3-hour block, that's a 3-hour block on Monday or 3.5-hour block on
But
Monday.
you're saying we need to limit it to 2 hours.
Yeah. I think for everybody's sanity and also to have a productive meeting.
10 o'clock on Wednesday works because we have a new meeting that starts off that day. So that's a 2-hour block.
What day?
Wednesday. So same day, just moving it up to 10 a.m. from 4:30.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's consider that and then we'll talk about it next month. Okay. Item 18, recess, closed session. Do we have any?
Not
anything
necessarily.
to talk about?
Unless we end up needing 220 at this
Okay.
point.
Item 20, do we need to go into closed for that?
That depends on where the discussion goes.
Okay. So if you guys understand item 20, that's in the package. All Fred is asking for is more information. He's not asking and he's not being confrontational with anyone. He just wants more information. And I want to expand on that too, because you may not know this, but Fred does this for a living and it's like a free service. This guy makes a lot of money doing this and he wants, it's beneficial.
For 30 purposes, doing what?
He looks at companies that are in distress and they hire him to come in and look for ways to get out of distress. And if there's no way to get out of distress, he gives them advice on how best to proceed. So I think what Fred is offering is he wants more information so that he can use his talents to help you out, or not you. I'm looking at you and I don't mean that, but I think he's
The organization.
the organization.
The hell, not the ones.
Yes. And so, but it's kind of a moot point because most of the information has already been provided voluntarily anyway. And we're just waiting for some other information that he's asked for. So I don't think we need to go into that now, do we?
No, I think he was looking for, he had suggested that there be a couple of attendees at the meeting that he's setting with Jace. He may have talked to you about that.
Yes.
So y'all just need to work out, because we can only have 2.
Yes.
If he attends, it would be either you as president or another member of this board. So y'all, I don't know if y'all need to talk about that here or if you're.
No, we don't need to talk about that now. All right.
I think you ought to carry this one to next meeting. And that way he can tell us all what he's
Okay.
thinking.
All right. We'll just, so let's
Try to
get,
include this in the pack.
let's get an agreement in principle that,
It's,
um,
That was
get more
That was it.
information, it's
okay.
fine.
Till September.
Well, just an agreement in principle that the information he's looking for will be provided, but we'll discuss it next month. Okay. All right, that's all we got. Do we have anything that we want to talk about for next month other than the budget and the tax rate structure? Okay, make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? All right. We are adjourned.
6 minutes.
Wow.
There you go.
Hour and,
Can be done.
thank you.
Just for y'all to learn, as part of AWA Texas section, I am on the awards committee and we are considering nominating the SJRA for the exemplary source water protection.
What was a?
Say that again?
American Water Works Association.
Okay.
Don't forget to fill these out, please. Thanks.
Can I donate the money?
Oh, you don't have to take
Can I
it
donate it
to Shelley's bank account.
to Shelley's nice car?
I believe we all have honorary memberships to AWA. Possibly
I don't
We
know
have
that.
the ones with a lot of W's in today.
not. I would recommend.
AWBD,
What?
Got AWBD. That's-
the one with a lot of W's.
Yeah, what is that?
Association of Water Board Directors.
What's that?
Association of Water.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, water board director. I guess.
The one with a lot of W's.
Association.
So what do I have to do to get that?
I don't know. I mean, is there a membership? Do they get membership to AWA?
Not that I know of, but I'll check on it
Okay,
and see.
that'd
I
be
don't-
great.
I haven't,
I know they have,
I've never dealt with them.
for an entire.
Yeah, it might be like a group deal.
You see John Jordan's here? He's out.
Oh.
He's in the next meeting.
And they're just getting nominated as a potential nominee. It may not. go
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
For the next one.
Sorry.
Oh, don't take that.
I was a little lost with these green folders and Deidre helped me out. I was sitting there going, I don't need this.
You might,
Well, this is the
but
first time.
I
I've
felt
got
bad.
How come I didn't sign one of those last time?
Right here.
No, in the June meeting.
Well, because it's right here. It didn't get signed. Crazy man.
So that's, yeah, that's it.
Chicken and salad. Chicken and salad.
Whatever. I do not like rice, but I love greens. Yes. Oh, yeah,
Barely,
I see that.
barely take a break to pee, then come back.
Today.
Scott not gonna be here tonight?
No, we barely have a quorum. There's just 3 of us.
Wow.
There's 3 of us today.
Pam's not gonna be here, I guess.
No, she's got COVID. I had it after the last meeting.
Where's the sky?
He's on vacation
Is he?
somewhere. I hope it's dry wherever he is.
I thought he was the one that told us we had to be here this month.
I think he was.
I think he said, he said, we're gonna talk about the budget. Everybody's gotta be here. Then he goes on vacation, huh?
He's on vacation. So he left it to us. But there's only 3 of us, and I don't think that's enough. We can talk.
Gotta be unanimous. All votes.
We'd have to. wouldn't
Yeah.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, except I was just kind of checked out, but I think that's. yeah.
They have me sitting over there today, all right.
Good, okay.
Everybody was calling.
And then I.